Hi, everyone. Appreciate you joining us. This is Rico Figliolini, host of Urban Ebb. We have a great guest today. I'm excited to welcome Gregory Lang, healthcare leader, a master's in psychology, executive director, and CFO of Good Samaritan Healthcare here in Gwinnett County. Long history in healthcare and an author of over 50 books, a best-selling author of his first book, Why a Daughter Needs a Dad. I have a daughter, and I thought that was a great book, by the way. So
Thank you.
I want to welcome you, Greg. Thanks for coming down with us.
Thank you. I'm very glad to spend the time with you.
Appreciate that. Before we get into the interview, I just want to thank our two sponsors, EV Remodeling Inc. Here in Peachtree Corners. They've done over, I think, 260 remodeling jobs, everything from kitchen and bath to whole house remodels and extensions. Great guy. Eli, his family live here in Peachtree Corners. Terrific work, terrific guy. Check them out, evremodelinginc.com. Also, Vox Populi. You have a brand, you need apparel, you need truck wraps, you need anything where that brand, that logo needs to go on. These guys can do it. They're here also in Peachtree Corners, run by a family business. They've just expanded to be able to take on larger quantities of apparel work and such. So check them out. They're at voxpopuli.com. And I appreciate this support as Eli with our journalism and our podcasts. So thank you for being there. And Greg, I guess, I've interesting part is I interviewed, or we had an interview done with you back in the early 2000s for a magazine I first started in Gwinnett called Inside Gwinnett Magazine. So this is almost like full circle for me because that
Right.
was that was about you coming out with your first book.
I think we actually met at the Barnes and Noble at the Forums for that
Yes.
interview.
Yes, I think you're right. We did do that. And that's still going to be around, thank goodness. I
Yeah,
think they're moving to the old Navy store at the Forum, so we're going to have
that's
to
right.
put.
I live in that area, so I walk past that store on a regular basis, and
Do
I'm
you?
always looking in the window to see if they have my book on display.
That must be something. I just can't imagine that feeling. I mean, just what inspired you? I mean, you came out of a background where you had a biology degree, a master's in psychology, you went into healthcare. What inspired you to do this, to write a book originally, your first book?
Well, there's two ways to answer the question. The first one was, why did I really consider it? It was financial need. When
Hmm.
I finished my education, my first job was working with a startup company. And back in that time, in the late 80s, a lot of young entrepreneurs were hired at low salaries and large
Yes.
basket of stock options. And I kept waiting for the IPO that was going to give me the bank account of my dreams, and it never happened. I went through several startup companies, great experience, but I never saw one go public. Um, so I realized, I can either get out of this gig and find other work, or I can create a second income stream for myself.
Hmm.
So I met with a business consultant, and he
Hmm.
gave me some of the best advice that I have ever received in terms of work. And that is that I was in the habit of selling my time. And as long as I was only selling my time, I could only earn as much as the market would be willing to pay me and the number of hours that my body could tolerate work.
Okay.
And that would eventually reach a ceiling. But
Wow.
if I wanted to make real money, I needed to find a source of income that was unrelated to time. And he said, think of a box
Wow.
factory. If you owned a box factory and you were creating cardboard boxes, you could do that 24/7
Hmm.
uh, and just create, boxes. So I really literally started to think, what is my box factory? And I eventually learned about royalties. And
Hmm.
I thought, well, I'm going to find a way to create a royalty stream for myself. And that was the start of it. And I began,
Well,
I love movies. So I began with screenwriting. I love music. So I moved into songwriting. I enjoy board games, especially playing with my daughter, my only child at that time.
mhm,
So I moved into inventing a yard game and a board game. And I kept
wow.
getting interest. I had tickles, but I never closed the deal on any of those things. And again, I was asking myself the question, am I going to keep doing this, or am I going to try something else? And it just occurred to me that I've not yet looked at publishing. So I did a lot of research on how to publish a book, and I thought I was going to commit myself to that. And at the time, I had a child. I had an 8-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
and I was divorced, and I was not seeing her every day of the week, which was caused me great grief. I wanted to see her all the time, and I used to save mementos from our outings,
Right.
vacations, birthdays, cards, school art, all the things that we would do together. And I kept it in a cardboard box that I
Yeah.
called the Megan box. That's her name, Megan. And as I was going through it one day, it just came to mind. One of those aha moments, it just came to mind that I could write a book to my daughter about all the things that she means to me that are now symbolized in this cardboard box. I can put that into words and give that to her, and it'll last for years and years, and maybe be inspirational to other dads and daughters. And that was the beginning of it. So
Wow.
I set out to write Why a Daughter Needs a Dad. Um,
Well,
after digging through our cardboard box, just reliving some of the memories of the times we've spent together.
well, that's a long journey and a lot of different things you went through to get there.
Yeah, I tried a number of things,
Yeah.
as I've just mentioned, before I went to publishing. I wish I had gone to publishing first.
Yeah, well, you don't know until you try, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I still have some of those old projects. I'm not going to pursue songwriting or screenwriting, but my board game and my yard game, I think in my retirement, I'm going to return to those. And I may choose to develop,
Okay.
those items myself. We'll see.
And it's funny. I mean, some people go back to the things they did before, right? And once they're successful, they know what needs to be done with the prior stuff. So you're going to be bringing back stuff you learned from
Right.
this experience. So that makes
Exactly.
sense. And obviously having a daughter, I think, that whole inspiration of what you went through. Um, not being able to be with her all the time, saving those memories in that box. And yeah, that's all good inspirational stuff. Not that anyone should go through that, but you took what could have been bad for someone and really turned it into something good, I think.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I, I'm very proud of the book. My daughter remembers all of the things that we did together trying to publish the book. She would travel with me as we would talk to publishers. And eventually, after we had the contract, she met the publisher. He was in Nashville, Tennessee. She would go with me on photo shoots.
Mhm.
She's even traveled with me to some of the book expositions where I would be in New York at an annual conference, signing books to people that walked through the publisher's booth. So of course she didn't have as much work involved in the whole project as I have,
Right.
but it's a real thing to her. She remembers it, and it's some good time that we spent together.
Yeah.
And as you know, it it became such a success, a surprise success to us that the publisher came back very quickly. It's like, what else you got? What else you got? Um, uh,
So what you do?
I'm a son, so
Uh-huh.
I just thought, well, I'll just do the opposite of this relationship. Instead of why a daughter needs a dad, I would write why a son needs a dad, and I dedicated that to my father,
Wow.
uh, and wrote that book. And it also surprised us and did well. So I heard what I had hoped to hear. He came back to me again, like these books are doing great. What are we going to do next?
Mhm.
And
Hmm.
we sat down and thought about why is it doing so well?
Yeah.
And we realized that instead of selling um, 12 months a year,
Hmm.
we would have small sales throughout the year, but they really took off in May and June during
Hmm.
Father's Day
Yeah.
shopping season. We're like, wow, this is an alternative to a card. Somebody wants,
Yeah.
doesn't want to try to express their love in a $4 card, but they might be willing to spend $14 on buying this book that they could even personalize. And I've gotten emails from people over the years telling me how they pasted their own photographs over the photographs in the book, or they wrote their own messages within the pages to supplement what I had written.
Hmm.
And it just occurred to us that we could look across the calendar and
Hmm.
find all of the celebrations of a family relationship,
Right.
Mother's Day, Father's Day,
Grandparents' Day.
Parents Month, um, uh,
Wow. Okay.
Valentine's Day, and then it went on to, well, let's look at adoption. There's a
Mm.
National Adoption Month, and so we found all of those holidays on the calendar
Wow.
and wrote books that could be marketed into that time period. And that's really how I ended up with such a
A backlog of books.
significant, yeah. And there's so
Yeah.
many books is that we in the industry it's called a perennial. It only
Right.
lasts for a little while,
Right.
it goes away, but it comes back
Comes
next year.
back. Yeah.
And that's what they are. And this book over your shoulder, Why a Daughter Needs a Dad,
Yep.
it has not been out of print since it first appeared in 2002. So
And it was on the New York Times bestseller list as
it
well.
has been on the New York Times bestseller list multiple times, again, because it's a perennial, so it pops up.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I have a total appearances of 21 times on the list over the years that my books have been out there.
Right.
I
And
had
you go.
four.
Good.
Should I wave to get my light to come back on?
No, you're good. You're good.
I had four um, books on the New York Times list this year. So
This year.
yeah,
Wow.
it's been a real blessing,
Wow.
a real blessing to us.
You would talk about residuals before. For those people that don't understand what that means, it means you get a percentage of the sale of each book that goes, right?
That's
Uh,
right.
and when you have a backlog, when a writer has a backlog or catalog of books of 50, I mean that's decent residual or royalties then coming back at you. So
It has it's changed our life, and there's no doubt about it. I
yeah,
mean, I still work, and part of that is I want to, especially what I've done in the last 14 years in the nonprofit sector. Um, so we didn't become independently wealthy, but it did put us on a different trajectory than where I was when I was hoping for my startup company to make me wealthy, only to be
right.
disappointed in that.
Right, right. I think some people call it like you'll have a full-time job, but then you might have other income, and that's considered lifestyle money, maybe.
Right,
Yeah, so
right. My wife
extra,
calls it
extra.
mailbox money. I get
Mailbox
a
money.
royalty check once every 6 months, so twice a year we get paid, and we never know what it is until we open the mailbox and grab the envelope.
Wow. Okay. That's cool. Um, I guess, part of the question I was going to ask, but maybe it's kind of funny because, uh, sometimes I look at revenue stream for myself through the years that I've grown into what I've done, right? Every business I've had, or if I worked for someone, it's like you said, right? With regard to the box, right? When you can only make so much money. If you works for someone, you get a salary. You're lucky if maybe you get a 2 or 3% bump in your salary every year,
Right.
or maybe a bonus if you're lucky, if you're with the right company, right? So I always looked at revenue stream. What else can I do that can produce a revenue stream beyond what I'm doing for, this job? So you did that too, but we all work from our strengths, right? My background has been sales, graphic design, and stuff like that. Your background has been psychology, counseling. Has any of that informed a bit of your writing, would you say?
I think so, because I spent most of my time in counseling other people, and I saw the kind of struggles that marriages and parent children endured. So much of it around communication, so much around unwillingness to be vulnerable with each other or forgive one another. So I remembered all of those conflicts that I witnessed between people that really, given a choice, just wanted to love and enjoy each other if they could overcome whatever those pain points were.
Right.
And that could not be forgotten as I was writing the reasons why a daughter needs a dad, or the reasons that a spouse might love the partner,
Right.
why grandparents are important, in the family constellation. So yeah, it all came into play in one way or another. I tried not to write cliche. I really wanted to write impactful and important stuff, but these are gift books, not self-help books. So
Right.
I
Right.
had to find a way to frame it
Mhm.
in a way that wasn't preachy, that was heart rending in its own way. It was touching and memorable.
Yeah.
But if you were able to look at my statements conceptually instead of literally, you might see that somebody with a marriage and family therapy background was behind writing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think. And obviously your experiences, your life experiences informed that too. And that was a tough book, right? Because not to write maybe, but um, the rejection times that you had, 62 times they were saying no to you.
Yeah.
Over what type of period of time was that before you
It,
finally got someone?
I spent 4 years shopping that
Wow.
book. After I put it together, I was so committed to it that it was going to be ride or die. I was just not going
Wow.
to quit because, at that time, it wasn't any more about trying to make money in a side gig. It was
Mhm.
about, I did this for my child, and how can I stop? I mean, it's for her. It needs to
Yeah.
come to fruition. It needs to materialize and be in her hands so that, when the day comes that I'm no longer alive, she still has that.
Yeah.
She's still
Wow.
got that cardboard box.
Wow.
So it was just an unrelenting drive. And yeah, I spent 4 years, um, query letters, phone calls, personal visits
Really.
with publishers all over the country. And I was always flatly rejected. People didn't get the book. They thought that it was too traditional, that it was old fashioned, that it was too
Mm.
Christian. One person even wrote a rejection letter to tell me that it wasn't a book, it was just a wish list.
Ah,
Uh,
wow. Okay.
with this, I finally met a publisher, Ron Pitkin, rest his soul, no longer with us, with Cumberland House Publishing in Nashville, father of a daughter who was experiencing breast cancer.
Oh, wow.
And when he read the draft, he started to cry. And he was like, I get this book. And he was the one that, finally came through for me and published it. And we worked together for years and put out a large number of books before his health started to fail. So he sold the publishing company to Source Books in Illinois. And that's who my primary publisher is today. So
Well,
I'm
that's for those series of books, I guess.
right, right.
Okay. You know. Um, yeah, publishing has changed too, right, over the years. So it's not the same as it used to be, I guess.
No,
Right?
you know, and I hate to sound like an old timer when I talk about in the old days, but when I was between 1998 and 2002, when I was going through that search for a publisher, um, social media wasn't a big thing. So
Yeah.
what really spoke out was the quality of writing, whether an author could tell a story,
Mhm.
could write well, and could hold someone's attention. Today, one of the first questions is what is my digital footprint?
Right.
How many followers do I have?
Yes.
What is my reach? You know,
Yeah.
back then, 20 years ago, I had a sales team, I had a marketing team. They were behind me. We worked together. We came up with ideas about how to promote the book. And unless you are a celebrity these days, you do your own marketing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for
Um,
sure. Yeah, I could see that. There's several authors I've spoken to, some of them self-published, and then you become your own marketing and you
right,
spend half the time selling, or more. I mean,
right.
you're just stuck in doing it. Now, some authors can do it better than others. Brandon Sanderson,
Mhm.
sci-fi fancy author, he sells merchandise. That's where the bulk of his money probably comes from, his
Right.
merchandise that he sells
Mhm.
off his books.
Well, of my 52 books, I've self-published six of them, four of those in the last 12 months.
Okay.
And the reason that I chose to self-publish is I mentioned the word Christian earlier. I'm a believer, and I want to write something that's relatable to another Christian reader. As you know, our culture has changed pretty dramatically over 20 years, maybe dramatically in the last 5 years. And some of the topics that are of interest to publishers today are um, uh, not compatible with my faith. And I don't want to publish something that taps into a DEI agenda. That's not
Mhm.
important to me.
Mhm.
Um, um, I I believe that, all people are equal, but I have that as a component of my faith, not because that's a social agenda. So my
Mhm.
Christian book, Letters to a Friend, that I self-published, I couldn't find someone to take it because it was not inclusive enough.
Right.
So I self-published it. Um, and then speed to market was another issue. Sometimes it takes 2 years to get a book from concept to a shelf.
Yes, I've
Uh,
heard that plenty
yeah,
of times. Yeah. Between editing, marketing, finding the shelf space and all that stuff, I guess.
right. Well, I now have grandchildren, and they are significant motivators in the things that I do. I've been diagnosed with cancer twice in the last 4 years.
Oh, wow.
So I decided I wanted to write some things for them,
Mhm.
and I wanted to be around when they were reading the books. So I
Sure.
self-published just to have that speed to market that I could get them out there and
Yeah.
wait for someone else to do it for me. So I'm going to continue to traditionally publish. I've actually got 5 books coming out between now and 27 through the traditional publishing channel.
Yeah.
Um, and I might do one or two more self-publishing, but and I don't hope to replace my traditional publishing with self-publishing.
The your traditional publishers don't have a problem with you self-publishing, I guess.
No, no, because they recognize it's work that they're not interested in.
Okay. Right, right. That
They're
makes sense.
they're they're very secular, and they've been
Sure.
very good to me. So I'm not criticizing it when I
Mhm.
say that. I'm happy to continue to work with them, but
Yeah.
they don't do Christian publications, and those are important to
Mhm.
me. So I will do that myself.
And there's an audience out there for everything. So it's just a matter of whether someone wants to be in that space to sell it or to write it, right? So,
Right.
you know, And there's apparently there's something like 15 million manuscripts a year that come out, is what I'm told. And I don't know if that's a worldwide figure, but only about 2% are traditionally published.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
we've interviewed a few publishers here out of Peachtree Corners, and I think there's only, besides you, that I'm aware of, there's only one other professionally published or trade published author out there that we've interviewed just recently. She's having a book signing in a week or two, I think.
Uh-huh.
Um, Jill Tew, Tew, and but it is a hard industry to break in. I mean, you shared your 62 rejections. She's had 13 manuscripts that just until she got her 14th book looked at and picked up.
Uh-huh.
And I just can't imagine being in publishing as we do, magazine publishing, going through that, going through, where do you stop? Where, at what point does your spouse maybe say, I think you're done? Or, why are you still doing it? It's like no one's
When
going
are
to
you going
pick
to
it up.
take a hint?
Yes. So so you have that, but then you get published, right? And then you get reviews because you're on Amazon, you're on a Goodreads, you're on all these other platforms that
Right.
books get discussed on. How do you handle and even going to like the book trade shows and stuff where you're signing books from the publisher's booth, or maybe you're doing a book signing or whatever. How do you take criticism, bad and good? How do you look at that? Does that ever help or hinder what you do?
I've received a lot of criticism, and you can find that on Amazon. You know, if you were curious to see what people say, click the one-star reviews on on
Yes, I'm sure.
Amazon. It, when I was younger and I only had a few books out, it offended me.
Mhm.
And, my feelings were hurt. And I'm like, you just don't understand, or that's not what I'm trying to say. But today I just realized, and this is an important life lesson. You can't please everybody. I'm not
Mm.
going to make everyone happy. I'm not going to make myself neurotic trying to make everyone happy. So those that are happy, that's a reward. Those that are unhappy, yeah, there's somebody else out there that will write something they like. So I've learned to let it go and be unaffected by it.
Yeah, that must be tough to do that. You have to be, like you said, I guess over the years you've come to that point.
Well, I have been a employer for a long part of my career,
Mhm.
and at one time I had more than 70 employees, and that'll teach you that everyone doesn't like you. And you just have to become immune to it in order to continue forward. If you're constantly trying to win fans, you're not going to reach the goals that are important to your business.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of times not everyone's on the same page as you, right?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I think you've had over, based on the search I did, you had over like 40,000 reviews on Amazon alone, I think.
That's right. Across the whole catalog, not on
Right,
this.
right. Yeah, yeah, not for one book, but still,
Um,
it's just over 2 decades and
yeah,
50 books later.
yeah.
Uh,
And
that's quite a,
I'm happy with that. And I certainly don't mean for this to sound cavalier, but the majority of the people do like what I write. And
Mhm.
if someone does not, that's their prerogative. They may choose to be very negative about the book, and I just go, well, that's
Yeah.
one of many, and the many like it, so I'm just going to continue to think about the many that like it.
Yeah. There's highs and lows, I'm sure, in this, right? Um, at this point, I mean, you're published well enough that you probably don't get as many rejections as you did before, I bet.
Well, I with my current publisher, there's no rejection. We just talk about how we're going to expand the catalog, and I've been working with them for more than a decade. So it's not as though I go out to a different publisher every time I have a book in mind. I stick with the horse that wins.
Hmm.
Um, However, when I wrote the novel, I did find an agent in New York to help me sell the novel. and I could not find a publisher, and it was rejected quite a few times. And a lot of that had to do with my brand. I'm known as a gift book author. I'm known as a children's book author. Why am I now trying to write a novel?
Yeah.
And no one was confident that my readers would switch genres with me. Um,
Right.
and so, yeah,
Yeah.
that one failed in the traditional space, and that's why I put it out there myself on a self-publication platform because I wanted to say, yeah, I've written a novel. I can put 85,000 words together.
Yeah, okay, okay, a couple of quick questions maybe. The illustrations in the books, right? Not drawn by you. You had an artist draw those, especially the early ones, I guess.
And in the traditional published books,
Okay.
they were originally illustrated with black and white photographs,
Okay.
and I took the majority of those photographs. But as you can imagine, you could probably look around where you're sitting right now and see old photographs. Their clothing, hairstyle, they date the photographs.
Sure, sure.
And it just dawned on us that instead of continuing to retake photographs to make them look more contemporary, these books would probably do well with illustrations instead.
Okay.
So the source books, the publisher hired an illustrator to replace my photographs.
Okay.
In the self-published children's books, I have done the illustration.
You
Um,
draw you draw as well. So you're
yeah,
an artist.
yeah. So the two children's books that I did
Uh,
this year, I did the illustration, and again, that I wrote those specifically for my grandchildren, and I just wanted it to be as much of my heart on the page as I could get into the paper. Um,
wow.
so I
Okay.
didn't hire that out. I did it myself.
Wow. Okay. Very talented, that's for sure. Um, the okay, so going from those types of books, of course, you did devotional, Christian devotional type books also. Um, the novel, is that your first true fiction piece?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
It's
and that's
the
called To Echo and Remain.
To Echo and Remain, which is a line from a poem written by um, a man named Joyce Kilmer.
Hmm.
He was the author of Trees, which is a famous poem about only God can create a tree
Yes.
that some people recognize.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. People often decide if you're a real author on the basis of whether or not you've written a novel. People say, "Oh, you're an author? Do you write novels?" No, I write children's gift books, and they kind of lose interest. They want to talk to somebody that writes novels, and maybe
Yeah.
we'll get a movie deal out of it.
Huh.
So
Yeah. On Netflix or something.
yeah. So I decided I'm going to just give it a shot. I'm going to write a novel, and when somebody asks me in the future, "Have you ever written a novel?" I'm going to say, "Well, yes, I have."
So when you decided to do that, I mean, you could have went anywhere with it, right? You could have been slice of life, could have been science fiction, fantasy, could have been something that I forget the Southern Film Production Company that does some of these Christian movies down here in the South. Um, could have been along those lines, maybe. Might still be along those lines. I don't know if it would be considered that. But tell us, like, how'd you come up with the premise? What was your, you know?
So, um, similar to comments made earlier about bringing myself to the children's books,
Mhm.
the experiences I had as a therapist coming through. I didn't want to just sit down and make up a story. I wanted to have material, from real life that I could pull from
Right.
and, of course, tweak it to protect the innocent. But I wanted to write something that I really knew. I thought it would be easier. And if at the time, there was a lot of controversy in Atlanta with the nonprofit, I believe it's called Tree Atlanta, trying to enforce the tree ordinance. There was a great deal of development in downtown Atlanta that was
Mm.
resulting in the tear down of old homes and building what
Right.
people called then McMansions.
Hmm.
And I was working in Inman Park, and I was seeing some of the old homes in Inman Park being destroyed and replaced, including cutting down trees. And I just interesting, read an article about the battle between Tree Atlanta and developers on protecting the tree canopy
Yeah.
in Atlanta. And I just kept seeing that. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Maybe I can do something with it. And then I went on a trip to North Carolina, Western North Carolina, Bryson City, hiked the Joyce Kilmer Memorial Forest,
Mm.
found out that it's virgin forest land that was protected from a sawmill in order that North Carolina would continue to have a virgin stand of these poplar trees. And I'm like, wow, those two things go together. Here's in the city, we're trying to protect trees. In
Mhm.
Western North Carolina, we're trying to protect trees. And I just put together a story around the history of the founding of the Joyce Kilmer Forest and how that informed fictional character, a lawyer, trying to save trees in an Inman Park neighborhood during the gentrification of that area.
And you had a little twist in there because your main character, I guess, um, was divorced from his wife, I guess, or girlfriend rather.
I had to, yeah, I had to break up.
Yeah. And but was he appealing the case against her as well? I mean, there was a bit of a twist in there or something.
Yeah, his
I don't want to
opposing
give away the
counsel,
story. It's just
his opposing counsel was his ex-girlfriend,
it's okay.
who so that life informs fiction.
Yeah.
She broke up with him because she didn't believe that he had the potential to be great. That he was not going to do as well as she wanted her her potential husband, to do.
Ah,
I,
okay.
I had somebody tell me that one time, and
Yes.
yeah.
Inspiration comes from many places.
Yeah. So it's funny how little things, that you can't forget kind of get woven into the story. So I have a t-shirt today that says, "Careful, you could end up in my novel."
Was that I was reading something about, I think it was a master class actually about Judy Bloom or something. I think it was her, where she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm in the diner. If you're sitting in the next booth over, yeah, I'm listening to every word you're saying because you might be in my next book."
Exactly. Exactly.
So you have that, and then Stephen King. Just to talk about what you were saying about fiction writing. Everyone knows Stephen King as a horror thriller writer, right? Horror writer, basically. And
Hmm.
whenever he writes a book that has not one stitch of horror supernatural in it, which is he's done a couple of them, and I've read one of them, I forget which one it was now. And it's like I'm a third of the way through, and I'm like, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
We're not, where's the Stephen King I knew? He's just writing plain old living now, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a tough thing. Yeah, I could see how that could be tough when you're used to an author writing certain things. I guess this is why he did Richard Bachman at one point, Stephen King, when he took a pen name, just did another book under because he just wanted to do other books, I guess.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, if I had had that novel go out under my wife's name, I probably could have done a better job than what actually happened. Female authors are very popular today,
is that too? Yeah.
and she might have gotten a contract just on merit and without questions about where's your digital footprint.
Interesting. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But you could be
Yeah,
right.
yeah, we'll see.
Uh, I have a daughter. She's a middle child, and she's also a psychology master. Although she went into personal training for a company, and she wants to write also. But I think everyone thinks they have a book in them. Um, you just have to get that book out,
Right,
and it's a
right,
struggle. And then, like you found out, it's also a struggle. The bigger struggle after you get, I think the easiest thing is sometimes to write it. The hardest thing is to be able to sell it, right? To be able
right,
to get it out and have someone show interest and the confidence that your book can be successful, I think.
right.
Um, what future projects, Greg, do you see for yourself? Are you planning another novel? Are you looking at besides the children's book that you're doing with Source, with your current publisher? Are you thinking of other areas of doing things?
I do have one more book that I intend to write. It'll be targeted more toward a middle school um, youth reader instead of children. And it'll be a moral story driven book and instead of what they call concept books like I've written about parental love and then recently about friendships. Those are concept books. I
Sure.
want to tell a moral in my next children's book, and I have that up my sleeve. I'm currently doodling to try to come up with the illustrations that I want to use. And I think I want to try another novel. I learned a lot in writing the first one. I learned a lot in the feedback that I got from people that read it but rejected it. Um,
What were the
and
biggest three comments that you remember that you got back on some of those rejections? I think some wannabe authors may want to, that would be of interest.
I say this. I'm going to answer your question. I hope it's humorous. So I set the book in the year 2000.
Mhm.
It was just after Y2K. And it seems like people who read it couldn't help but evaluate it by um, today's cultural lens instead of
Okay.
2000.
Yes.
So there wasn't a DEI thread in the book. The protagonist is a white male. The love interest couple is a white heterosexual couple.
Yeah.
So it sort of went against the grain of where um, a lot of fiction is headed today.
Interesting. So that was mostly of what you were. I guess that makes sense. I mean, I forget the name of the book that I read once a little while ago. It was Abide. Abide by Me. No, maybe not that. It was a book written in the 40s. It was a
Mhm.
novel. And it was a dystopian novel. And you can't read that book without looking at the era it came out of. The same
Right,
way you can't read the Mockingbird
right, right, right.
without understanding the era it came out of.
Even Mark Twain,
Yes, yes, for sure. So yeah, I can see how, and the market has changed, right? I think there's a lot more younger people. Um, you have older people that read novels like, that want printed books, or Kindles, which is, I mean, essentially just a
hmm
different form of that book, or audiobooks, right? So, and that's moved also to performance books and dramatizations
right.
of books. So it's a whole thing. And then you got younger people. Like I said, my kids are 22, 27, and 30. They all love reading printed books
hmm
versus digital books. So industry has changed a little bit. The YA market, the new adult books. Um, yeah. So do you know the genre or the time period you may want to put your next book in?
It'll be contemporary. Yeah,
Okay.
it'll. I want to do. If you'll think back, I read a lot of old stuff,
Yeah.
and most authors in one time or another were infatuated with Hemingway, And his book, The Sun Also Rises, was one of the first Hemingway books that I read. And I like, um, um, a story that has multiple characters that are intertangled with one another and are going through some sort of awakening about who they really are.
Mm.
So I want to take that idea in today's culture. How do you really know who you really are? We have so many influences, whether that's social media, political messages,
Yeah.
cultural expectations. How does one discover who you really are today? And I think that's the question I want to tackle in my next novel.
I think that's the psychologist background in you.
Perhaps.
Do you have a, beta club, a reading club? Or do you put out any of your stuff prior to finishing the novel to get some feedback?
I do request beta readers,
Okay.
and I think I had 20 people read the novel that I could not sell. And I got some great feedback, and I got some good editorial marks. And then I had some people, like, I hate this story.
Well,
But that's fair.
yeah,
That's what I asked for.
yeah,
Give me your honest opinion. I didn't want anyone to worry about hurting my feelings.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, that's what you need to be able to grow, right?
Right, right, right.
Um, so where can people find, I mean, it's easy enough, I guess. I know if people do a search for your book, The Echo and the Remain, they'll find it on Amazon. That'll be the first thing
Amazon
that pops
to
up, right?
echo and remain.
Yeah, yep. And all your other books actually they can be found on Amazon. Why a Daughter Needs a Dad, and I think you have an author page on Amazon so they can find the other books as
I
well.
do. I
Yeah.
do. And you can find me on Goodreads. And then I have my own website, GregoryELang.com. And of course, I have author copies of all of my books. So I have some back stock of the old titles and the original formats. If anybody wanted, a first or second edition where we use photographs instead of
Yeah.
watercolor illustrations.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. All right. So everyone, you all know where to find them. And if you want to follow him on Instagram, for example, it's Gregory E. Lang. So definitely, give him a follow. Check his books out. Greg, appreciate
Great.
you being with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate having the chance to talk about the books.
Yeah, no, love talking to authors. It's always a great discovery on how things are done, and especially your personal experience. So why don't you hang in there with me? Everyone else, thank you again for following and for listening in. Check out our other podcasts as well on Urban Ebb and on Peachtree Corners Life if you're looking for things more local to our city, just north of Atlanta. Thank you again. Take care.